The Origins of Money by Carl Menger. Chapter 8. How the Precious Metals Became Money. The commodities which under given local and time relations are most saleable have become money among the same nations at different times, and among different nations at the same time, and they are diverse in kind. The same reason why the precious metals have become the generally current medium of exchange among here and there a nation prior to his appearance in history, and in the sequel among all peoples of advanced economic civilization, is because their salableness is far and away superior to that of all other commodities, and at the same time because they are found to be specially qualified for the concomitant and subsidiary functions of money. There is no center of population which has not in the very beginnings of civilization come keenly to desire and eagerly to covet the precious metals, in primitive times for their utility and peculiar beauty, as in themselves ornamental, subsequently as the choicest materials for plastics and architectural decoration, especially for ornaments and vessels of every kind. In spite of their natural scarcity, they are well distributed geographically, and in proportion to most other metals, are easy to extract and elaborate. Further, the ratio of the available quantity of the precious metals to the total requirement is so small that the number of those whose need of them is unsupplied, or at least insufficiently supplied, together with the extent of this unsupplied need, is always relatively large, larger more or less than in the case of other important, though more abundant available commodities. Again, the class of persons who wish to acquire the precious metals is, by reason of the kind of wants which by these are satisfied, such as quite especially to include those members of the community who can most efficaciously barter, and thus the desire for the precious metals is as a rule more effective. Nevertheless, the limit of the effective desire for the precious metals extend also to those strata of population who can less effectively barter. By reason of the great divisibility of the precious metals, and the enjoyment procured by the expenditure of even very small quantities of them in individual economy. Besides this, there are wide limits in time and space of the salableness of the precious metals, a consequence on the one hand of the most unlimited distribution in space of the need for them, together with their low cost of transport as compared with their value, and on the other hand their unlimited durability and the relatively slight cost of hoarding them. In no national economy which has advanced beyond the first stages of development are there any commodities, the salableness of which is so little restricted in such a number of respects, personally, quantitatively, spatially, and temporally, as the precious metals. It cannot be doubted that long before they had become the generally acknowledged media of exchange, they were, amongst very many peoples, meeting a positive and effective demand at all times and places, and practically in any quantity that found its way to market. Hence arose a circumstance which necessarily became a special import for their becoming money, and any one under those conditions, having any precious metals at his disposal, there was not only the reasonable prospect of his being able to convert them in all markets at any time and practically in all quantities, but also, and this is after all the criterion of salableness, this prospect of converting them at prices corresponding at any time to the general economic situation, at economic prices. The proportionately strong, persistent, and omnipresent desire on the part of the most effective bargainers has gone farther to exclude prices of the moment of emergency, of accident, in the case of the precious metals, than in the case of any other goods whatever, especially since these, by reason of their costliness, durability, and easy preservation, had become the most popular vehicle for hoarding as well as the goods most highly favored in commerce. Under such circumstances it became the leading idea in the minds of the more intelligent bargainers, and then, as the situation came to be more generally understood, in the mind of every one, that the stock of goods destined to be exchanged for other goods must in the first instance be laid out in precious metals, or must be converted into them, or had already supplied his wants in that direction. But in and by this function the precious metals are already constituted generally current media of exchange. In other words, they hereby function as commodities for which everyone seeks to exchange his market goods, not as a rule in order to consumption, but entirely because of their special salableness in the intention of exchanging them subsequently for other goods directly profitable to him. No accident nor consequence of state of compulsion, nor voluntary convention of trades affected this. It was just apprehended of their individual self-interest which brought it to pass that all more economically advanced nations accepted the precious metals as money as soon as a sufficient supply of them had been collected and introduced into commerce. The advance from less to more costly money stuffs depends upon analogous causes. This development was materially helped forward by the ratio of exchange between the precious metals and other commodities undergoing smaller fluctuations, more or less than that existing between most other goods, a stability which is due to the peculiar circumstances attending the production, consumption, and exchange of the precious metals, and is thus connected with the so-called intrinsic grounds determining their exchange value. It constitutes yet another reason why each man, in the first instance, which is till he invests in goods directly useful to him, should lay in his available exchange stock in precious metals, or convert it into the latter. Moreover, the homogeneity of precious metals and the consequent facility with which they can serve as res fungibles in relation of obligation have led to forms of contract by which traffic has been rendered more easy. This too has materially promoted the salableness of precious metals, and thereby their adoption as money. Finally, the precious metals, in consequence of the peculiarity of their color, their ring, and partly also their specific gravity, are with some practice not difficult to recognize, and through their taking a durable stamp can be easily controlled as to quality and weight. This too has materially contributed to raise their salableness and to forward the adoption and diffusion of them as money.